Happy New Year 2026. Thank you for joining us today to our very first episode of After Sessions podcast.
What this podcast will be about is what we do after our sessions together as colleagues, hence our podcast name, After Sessions. It will be real talk, real therapeutic conversations. There's going to be psychoeducation. We'll insert a lot of humor in there. Just grounded in encouragement with one another. I think it's also worth mentioning we are three diverse individuals, clinicians from different backgrounds. There is a 10-year gap in between each one of us. And on this note, I think we should introduce ourselves. Go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah, so my name is Lidia Oviedo Torres. I was born and raised here in Laredo, Texas. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree from Texas A&M International University, and I'm currently a doctoral candidate and an all but dissertation student at Walden University. I came into this field as a school counselor. I was always surrounded by other people who wanted to get very, very interested in counseling. So as a school counselor with my program at TAMU, I was able to have my licensure to become an LPC and to become a school counselor. So during my time there with the district, I was doing a lot of my hours at Pillar. I would do a lot of part-time virtual therapy. So I was doing virtual therapy for 3 years. And I really didn't start seeing clients until officially 1 year starting tomorrow. So this is where I began to bring in-person services to Laredo. So I have about 5 years of experience. I worked at Border Region beforehand. I did a lot of my hours at Pillar and a lot of my hours at the schools. And because of all that experience that I had working with the adults at Border Region and working with adults at Pillar, I tend to mostly see a lot of clients that are children, mostly like 6 and up. And I see a lot of adults as well. And my approach to therapy is very client-centered. So I think that for me, the client is the person that's the most important here. And I use a lot of play-based therapy with the kids that I see. I'm also an EMDR certified therapist and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapist. And I'm also a certified yoga instructor. So I use a lot of the techniques that I've picked up in the past couple of years with the clients, but every client is different, and I'm not necessarily just doing like mindfulness techniques with clients in the sessions. Outside of the therapy room, I am very active. I love to strength train. I've been strength training for about 12 years already. And in between that time, I've started to pick up running again. So I ran half marathons. I do the 5Ks and the 10Ks. And one of my favorite things, once I start to get like bored of just doing like the yoga and the running, I attend like bar classes at different studios locally. But besides that, I also like to watch TV. I'm a big Netflix and just sit on the couch and do nothing. And I like to spend time and travel with my husband and my son too. So it's just, I like to be very active. I like to be outside. I kind of want to separate myself from when I'm in the therapy room because we're in a room for like hours. Sometimes we come in, the sun's out, and then we come out and the sun's gone. So I like to be very active where, I'm kind of moving my body a lot. So with that, Juan, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so thank you, Lidia. My name is Dr. Juan Gerardo Galvan Rodriguez, originally from Laredo, Texas. I think my journey began in childhood. I struggled with severe ADHD that unfortunately was never attended to. Not because my parents were negligent. I was born in 1981. ADHD as a thing, it didn't get introduced to the mental health world, as you guys know, until 1980. So I think the negative consequences of my ADHD and my personality is what led me to this field, to this helping field and my specializations. The negative ADHD consequences was, I got straight A's, but never could get the honor roll because of got you in conducts. Daily parent, teacher, principal conferences because of my behaviors. My personality, I'm very observant, especially towards couples. And as a kid, I remember comparing the marriages within my family. It's almost as if I was meant to go into this field. My credentials, I am an LCSW supervisor, licensed clinical social worker supervisor. I have 20 years, a little bit more than 20 years doing this work. Where did I go to school? I started my bachelor's in Our Lady of the Lake University, San Antonio, continued at Mangalore University out of the country in India. I attended New York University in New York City. My doctorates was in Mississippi College, and I have two specializations. One we share, Lydia and Gilbert as well. We're with the Be It Foundation. I'm an EMDR therapist, and from the Ackerman Institute for the Family in New York City, I specialized in couples and family therapy. I told myself before I came back to Laredo, I was not going to come back until I had sufficient experience working with every single population in the DSM. And the DSM, folks, if you don't know, it's basically our Bible, our mental health Bible, where every single mental health disorder is in there. So in India, I worked with children and families. I was a school counselor as well. In New York City, I worked with adolescents, their struggles with recidivism, substance abuse, did a lot of couples and family work, depression, anxiety. I did couples and family therapy in Spain for a little bit. In Boston, I moved to Boston just to work with a chronic mental health population. These are the psychosis patients. These are your personality disorders, schizophrenia, psychopathy, in and out of psych hospitals. After all that experience, I came back to Texas and I immersed myself in the foster care system. And I started my private practice about 8 years ago, give or take. And I have pretty much a contract with every single population out there. Law enforcement, the Catholic Church, nursing homes, everything. As far as how I help people, what philosophy, what therapeutic approach, I was trained very psychoanalytically, very psychodynamic. What's that? Just imagine your Sigmund Freud couch. But the main thing about that I learned from that approach is trying to find the root cause to people's problems. And attacking their problems by the root so they won't come back, just like you take out some weeds. And my second approach is systems theory. I do have a bias. My bias is that if I'm going to help someone with their problems, I think problems can only be solved within the context that they're born in. So, for example, if a lady comes to me because she's depressed because her husband's cheating on her, eventually I'm going to bring that husband in. Otherwise, she's going to be my patient for the next 10 years. And we don't want that. A little bit about myself. Because of my ADHD, I am an adrenaline junkie. I'm a mountain biker. I surf, skateboard. I'm a voracious reader. I don't own a TV. I haven't owned a TV since 2005. I love the arts, particularly music. I travel around the world, and I've seen beautiful things around the world, and I've experienced freedom, and ultimately that's what drives me. Beauty and freedom. I want people to experience those two things, and I want to help. I have this desire to help people release people from the mental health burdens they carry, and yeah, that's about me. What about you, Gilbert?
Well, okay. My name is Gilberto Salinas. I was born here in Laredo, Texas, but grew up in Nuevo Laredo. So spent the first 15 years of my life there, and then in 1987 we moved here to Laredo. I'll do the math for you. I was born in 1972, so I'm the ancient one. I'm the oldest one here, so I moved here at the age of 15, and I continued in high school at United High School. And eventually, I went to school I graduated out of St. Mary's University with a pre-med degree, basically, which is biochemistry, with a minor in psychology. And then I ended up, I guess I wanted to go to medical school, but let's just say I was somewhat distracted during my undergraduate years. And I was doing a lot of social experiments, things of that nature. Yes, indeed. So all kinds of experiments with all the alcohol and things like that. But that was during that time. Then my GPA was horrible. I intended to go to medical school, but God had other plans for me. So I started in TAMU to do my master's degree in counseling psychology. So I graduated from there in 1999. I entered the field of counseling in 1996. So it's been 30 years since I entered the field. I graduated in 99. In 99, I got my license, my first license, which is the licensed chemical dependency counseling. And then eventually I got my licensed professional counselor in 2001. And then my designation as a supervisor, as a board approved supervisor. After that, I went to St. Mary's University, got my PhD in counselor education and supervision with an area concentration in marriage and family therapy, and graduated from there in 2005. I started working I started in the field at SCAN as a nonprofit organization. I was working in an outpatient program for treating adolescents who were struggling with addictions. So I was working with them, and then I started as a counselor, and shortly thereafter, I rose through the ranks to clinical director of the program director, and so my journey there, I worked with SCAN for a good while. I'm still in SCAN, and they make fun of me because I never really left. I'm still in there as the chairman of the board. But eventually I started working with Casey Family Programs. So did a lot of work with kids in foster care, just like Juan was talking about. So working with a lot of kids in foster care, but it was more of a policy systems type of thing that we were doing here for the state of Texas, and how to system delivery and accessibility things that we were doing back in the day. So after that, I started teaching also at Texas A&M International University in 2002, and I've been there ever since. That bad penny that keeps coming up. I've been there ever since. I rose through the ranks, and now I pulled back from teaching there as a professor, an assistant professor, where I'm now a visiting lecturer. So even though I'm still there full time, I just basically teach my classes and go back to see my patients. And also, I'm a professor at Nelson University in Waxahachie, Texas, where I do a lot of online work at the graduate level. What else? So I also work at a church here, a local church. I'm a pastor at the Laredo First Assembly of God, and I am actually finishing right now. I start in the next couple of weeks my master's in divinity. So I had started it sometime back, and I just need to finish it out. So I'm going to finish it hopefully this year, get my second master's in divinity. So as far as my approaches to psychotherapy, I'm a mutt. I've meandered through different approaches as I developed. I mean, I graduated from a very Rogerian program back there, very like person-centered. That's the way TAMU was at the time. But then I started working with people who struggle with addiction. So I had to, that wasn't really helpful. I needed to really change gears fairly quickly to help these people. So I started learning about rational emotive behavioral therapy, which was more like the CBT type of stuff, like the foundational CBT stuff. So I started working there, and also a lot of choice theory. Eventually, once I started doing my doctoral work, my mentor was very much a Gestalt practitioner. So that influenced me tremendously, and I fell in love with Gestalt. It really suited my personality, most of the things that, for most of the other therapies that I have seen before. And then also, as I started my doctoral work, I also started coming across a lot of Frankl and existential humanistic approaches. And as also I became a pastor, it became very, very important for me because a lot of my patients were looking at those big questions, the whys and the big existential types of things. So I think that also molded me a great deal. So my home approaches are going to be Gestalt, existential humanistic, and also I'm an EMDR therapist. That's the latest addition to the collection there. As far as psychotherapy, so I've had pretty extensive experience, again, in individual groups, couples, private sector, public sector, different levels of at the residential, outpatient, all of those different levels of experience. I've had some great mentors along the way. Also, as far as in addition to that, I also like
More.
most of you mentioned, I'm very much ADHD, and in order to keep my interest going, I'm very interested in a lot of different things. So I started most of my life, I've done martial arts. I was bullied as a child, so they ended up putting me in martial arts, so I learned how to defend myself. And when I was in 3rd grade, so I pretty much stayed. So martial arts has been something that has defined my life for a good while. And started off with Okinawa and Shotokan, and eventually I moved over into Chinese martial arts, which is Sanda specifically. I am certified as a coach and as a Sanda fighter from the Chichahai Sports School in Beijing, China. So I spent some time over there training. About 12 years ago that I've had that certification, and I've been a coach and a trainer for that. And actually, right now I'm training somebody in hybrid training for strength and also combat situations for a federal law enforcement officer that just started working with me. So I'm doing that. I've also am a certified personal trainer and strength coach out of Westside Barbell. So I personally am a elite powerlifter and strongman. So
You can say elite. You are.
Well, I do compete at the world level. I have multiple world records. I have over 30 world records in different federations, and I'm going after an all-time world record this year. And also in powerlifting, strongman. Last year I won the world finals in Static Monsters in Ireland, and I hopefully get it again this year in Phoenix. So those are just some of the things that I do in addition to everything else. My family, have 5 lovely kids, 4 girls, 1 boy, which is my youngest one, and my wife Ella. She is also a therapist. She's also in the field, and we do the Jedi mind trick on each other when we argue. But she also has extensive experience in the field. We actually met in Scan, and that's where
we gotta
she
get
got
her
me.
in here.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yes, she'd do great. She'd be a great person to have. But that's, I know I talk a lot, but that's basically in a nutshell. I have a lot to say because I'm the oldest one here. But
I always say that, like that running joke, we're just adding more letters to the end of our name,
the alphabet soup.
Like,
yes.
It's like how many more things can we add? And I think with like the whole, we keep mentioning ADHD, and if you like, you guys
Lydia,
could probably see it.
do you have
yeah,
ADHD?
yeah.
I know you had ADHD.
I do, but I
What gave it away? I'm sorry.
I know that.
Squirrel.
Probably like if you're watching it like on the video, like you'll see our ADHD tendencies where we're like doing like with the fidget rings, or we have like our stress balls. And that's kind of how we met, was like during that training, like
in the valley,
where I don't know, we're very different, but we're the same, I would say, like same kind of thing. But it's kind of not just ADHD is what has brought us together, or our extensive drive to do things after our therapy sessions either.
Right. Yeah, the Jewish tradition calls us the wounded healers. So we've all have some sort of traumas in our past, some experiences that led us.
Well, we did in a way like release our traumas during that training because during the EMDR training because we had to, right? So I think that kind of brought us a little bit closer. I mean, when do you really tell somebody like your deepest, darkest things besides in a therapy session, right? When you just first meet them. So, with that, today what we're going to go ahead and unpack are like some myths around the new year and why for us, January 1st doesn't magically mean that we're going to reset like our entire life.
Now, why are we starting here, folks? Well, because it's the brand new year, January 2026. Happy New Year. So we're going to do a little bit of myth busters. So I think the first myth that comes to mind is the whole, a new year, new me.
Yeah, we see that all over social media.
What do you guys think of that?
Like we see it all the time, I think
it's annoying.
It's annoying. Yes, because the time clock automatically it's 12:01, like we're a completely different person. Yeah. And I think it just adds like this unnecessary like pressure, for people, not just for like ourselves, but for like people who start to see this kind of content that's coming out everywhere, the new year, new me concept. And
I think my reservation, or I challenge that, again, going back to my psychoanalytic background, I think if I was a CBT therapist, it'd be like, all right, forget the past, new year, new me. It's all about here going forward. But from a psychodynamic perspective, I think analyzing the past is very helpful. And I don't think we can continue our journey until we learn what happened last year in 2025.
True, but I think more it's about this idea that because we're in a new year, it means that we automatically have to become a new person without, like how you said, without exploring those like patterns of behavior or like what exactly is it that we're trying to change, but we think it's just going to change all of a sudden.
The new year, new me. Actually, I have a sermon that I preached actually today. It's called New Year, Same Me, because we lie to ourselves. We think we're going to change. We get all this wind of motivation and maybe even marketing, that we get, and we start. And if you, luckily, I own my own gym, but if you go to a public gym or
anywhere,
a
really,
business gym, if you go in there, it's packed, and you're gonna have all these broccoli heads, that are gonna be, taking over the squat rack for doing arm curls or something, which is frustrating. And you have to be
for
nice
us
to them.
that have been going for a while, right? Like we're just trying to get in and do what we have to do.
And we know that for 2 weeks it's going to be like that.
Yes,
and then what happens after the second week is third weekend is empty,
and that sucks, like that's the pattern that's happening because we see it. Yeah. And then what happens afterwards? We're back to the same old me kind of concept.
Exactly. Yeah. That whole motivation peters out. I was actually reading a really interesting article about Planet Fitness, how the whole business model, they're relying on that inconsistency, because what they started looking at the people who actually go to the gym and they train, and these are going to be your hardcore, your power lifters, your strong, your bodybuilders. Yeah. These folks are going to be there. They're going to be going, they're going to be using the equipment. They're going to be your regulars. So what do? They say like, okay, but the majority of people are going to just kind of go pay their fee and somehow delude themselves into thinking I'm doing something, right? And get that
serotonin boost.
Well, yes, but also that placebo effect, that I'm paying for this. I bought my membership, I got my Lululemons and whatever. Yeah. So therefore, I'm going to be, doing something. But what they did, they took away the heavy weights, the free weights, all of that type of stuff, and they just kind of made it uninhabitable for hardcore lifters, with the culture of like, you can't grunt, you can't use chalk, you can't, slam the weights, right? We can't use, what do you call those shirts without sleeveless shirts? You can't use any of. You can't use muscle shirts. You can't use gallons of water. So they excluded that population and they kept those ones that are going to be paying and they're not going to be showing up. And they're going to charge you $10 a month and make a killing on
And
that.
it's interesting because like all those things that you say, like that's what people use as motivation.
Yeah.
Right.
So motivation actually does magically appear on
Yeah.
January
Yes.
1st.
But all of the things he's saying is like the new water bottle, the new shirt, the
Yeah.
new outfit, the new like gym straps, all that equipment. It's what people use to like motivate ourselves because I have all this cute stuff now. I'm going to go
Yeah.
to the gym. But if they like tended to be like, oh, well, now you're not allowed to use this.
What do you guys think is maybe a couple of reasons why people aren't consistent
Well, if
with
we
the
look,
gym, with the resolutions, with their 2026 goals?
because they rely on motivation.
Yeah.
You know, I think that if you look at what is it, the trans-theoretical
I can
model
see
of
that
change.
because motivation is fleeting.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
emotion.
Yeah, which is a pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, right?
Motivational interview.
Most people get stuck in preparation.
Yeah.
I got the tennis shoes. I got my gym sharks. I got everything. I'm ready to go. I paid my dues. They never really start, or if they start for a little bit and then they regress back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think the worst consequence of that, of relying on my emotions to lead the way, is that we fail. There's this neuro researcher that I really appreciate. Her name is Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. And she got into the field because she had a brother who was schizophrenic, and she wanted to understand my brother's schizophrenic brain. So she went into neuroscience, and she figured out that how much an emotion lasts in a brain. So if your spouse gives you, Lydia, if your spouse gives you flowers, you're going to feel happy. But that happiness, it goes away after 90 seconds.
Oh, wow.
90 seconds. She dubs it as a 90-second rule. And so I think with that in mind, we can't make decisions based on how we feel.
and I think one of the biggest, as a coach, I see this a lot. As a coach, I see this a lot. That motivation, I'm not knocking motivation. Motivation is a great thing.
Yeah.
For starters, for beginners, it's a great thing to have motivation, for you to be motivated.
the drive.
We need that drive. Absolutely. Let's ride that wave. But there's going to be a point in time where that needs to transition from motivation into actual discipline.
Yeah.
Which is that D word nobody wants to do, right? That discipline
And
becomes
because
part of you.
if it doesn't get there, that's where shame enters the picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we start to punish ourselves, and then
Yeah.
the negative mindset kicks in, and
Exactly.
you know, where do we go from there? You know,
And that's why I think I actually like that New Year, same me versus New Year, new me.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm still working in 2007. You know.
You're
Oh yeah,
stuck?
I tell my congregation, right? Every year I start with, okay, I want to have a skinny waist and a fat bank account, and I always end up with the opposite. You know, so it's you know, because we think, okay, I'm going to magically just, you know, I'm going to magically just manifest this without really actually putting in the work.
yeah.
So-
But it's also like you said, like riding the wave, and then when
Yeah.
But it's not just like the wave that we put for ourselves, but the wave that we're seeing other people's posts, and they're putting up their successes with their resolutions, and then we start to feel, well, I failed. You know?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I was actually looking at a post that really caught my attention, because I'm running around with people who are like the best in the world. You know, these folks that I look up to, I'm like, wow. And I'm comparing myself to those guys, you know, and I'm like, I want to get there. I want to do that. But then to the average person is like, oh, dude, you're doing this, you're doing that. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, dude, I'm the runt of the pack, you know? So I feel like, you know, like we need to really be cautious about this, because when you look at Instagram, for example, that's a curated space. It's like you're looking at a museum. Everything's curated, and you're gonna have these big lifts. You know, like somebody like lifting 500, squatting 500 pounds, squatting this. You know, which you know. And that's going to sound horrible, but for me, I'm like, wow, that's cute, right?
Yeah.
But somebody's going to be squatting 500 pounds. Okay, that's great, you know. But then you start looking at numerically, you know. I think somebody actually squatting a 400-pound squat, you know, it's like a fraction of a percent of the world population.
Wow.
It's a fraction of a percent. It's like 0.0012, something like that.
Yeah.
So not everybody can do that. Why? Because first of all, people don't train that way.
Yeah.
And most people don't do that. Most men don't do that. So, but again, you can get into this echo chamber and think you're not good enough, and you start getting depressed and frustrated and throw in the towel because I'm not hitting those numbers. I'm not looking like this model, what have you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's hard because we go back to discipline, right? Like being able to have that discipline at the end of the day, not just for like the new year, new me thing, but like in any aspect of our lives, right?
Exactly.
Like we have to have motivation dies down, and then all of a sudden, what are we going to do afterward?
Yeah.
When?
And then folks take a day off.
Yes.
And then that gets to them.
And we feel overwhelmed.
I think one of the things that has helped me historically is, and I saw this, speaking of social media, I saw this in a quote. When you're tired, learn to take a break. Don't quit.
Exactly.
Very simple, very cliche, maybe a little bit corny, but it was very helpful for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, when we don't start on January 1st, like we already failed. Like what, January 1st was what, Thursday, right?
It was, yeah.
It was
Would have been cool if it would have started on a Monday.
On a Monday, right? Like in an ideal world, it started on Monday, but
National Chess Day.
Yeah. But like for us, like we always like have this mindset of like, well, we can start any day.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and I see it on TikTok, on Monday, what is tomorrow, January 5th, we hit the gym and we start, and we're already in our mind saying we're pushing it off to another day rather than starting it. What if we go after this and we just go to the gym together?
A late start is still a start.
True.
A start is a start. A start is a start. Just start today. Why not today? Go today. Doesn't have to be perfect. All the stars doesn't have to be lined up. Just get to the gym and start doing something. Start a little bit at a time. Don't go and kill yourself to the point that in the next 3 days, you're going to get the delayed onset muscle soreness and you can't move, and you'll be completely discouraged from that. So let's start look, or like, for example, I'm going to start something different. I'm going to start this new degree. I'm going to start the new. Okay, well, let's start looking at what schools are you going to go? What are the opportunities? Start looking at those things. It could be that. It could be a new business. It could be what have you. So start looking at those things. As far as like,
just begin to look
just
at those
begin.
things.
Just start from somewhere.
Because there's another myth that, it's January 1st and I have to have my whole year planned out for me by this month already. And the reality is it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And I think it's like, hard because we already feel very overwhelmed. And, we said it, before we started, how these past 2 weeks has felt so heavy and it feels wonky and it feels kind of off because of the holidays. And then all of a sudden coming in with this idea, and even for me, because it happened where I started to feel like very overwhelmed because to me, it's like, okay, now January is here and I have to hit the ground running. Yeah. Now all the things that I have planned out are going to start. And now, I overwhelm myself just with the thoughts alone of everything that I have planned out that I want to do. And then it's just, it just doesn't happen. But
like, for example, you just started a business and you just moved away from the school district you mentioned, and you got your license a year ago, so how did that happen? How did you start there?
Well, that's
babies. No, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but because we're all three in private practice, it started from a thought.
Yeah.
Reflection.
Well, it actually started from a push, because y'all were really the ones that kind of pushed me into it, where we're like, well, you could do so much more in private practice.
You're welcome.
Yes, very big thing. And I say it all the time, right? And when anybody asks, it's like, oh yeah, I have two awesome people that kind of led me like that, because this was like the biggest, like scariest jump that I could have done, and I say it all the time. And whenever I want to relate to people about taking big risk, I always talk about like this specific moment.
You just triggered a memory, somewhat traumatic memory. I got into private practice because I got laid off of my I was a clinical director at the time, and I got laid off. We lost funding, and all the clinical directors across the state of Texas for the company I worked at, we got laid off.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of buying my first home.
Oh my God.
Super scary.
Yeah.
But that push is what drove me to private practice.
I got laid off of Casey Family Programs. After 9/11 and the economy tanking, we started closing offices. So I got laid off from there. That's what pushed me into the university further into going full time at the university, and also when I was in the university, I never became tenured because I don't like doing research. That's not my thing. I just do not like research. I'll use it. I'll consume it. I'm more focused on the practical side of practicing and being a clinician than being a researcher. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not your guy. And the thing about this is that, hey, I had this thriving private practice that I could really focus more on and actually be less dependent on a paycheck from the university. And just that, you know what? I just need to start. And it was scary. I was afraid because they gave you this idea. Like I don't remember who said this, that a paycheck is the medicine they give you to forget about your dreams. Because the golden shackles, man.
I wish I came up with that.
The golden shackles, man. They make you give you this sense of security, but it kills your dream. So what I did, I'm like, I'm just gonna take a step in faith, and I'm gonna start. And guess what? And it happened during the pandemic, bro. It was in 2020 when I started doing this. And I'm like, I'm not going to get any patients. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And guess what? I got filled. And every single one of them, I'll say 99% of my clientele wanted face-to-face counseling.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they were coming with all the PPEs. What is it?
The face mask.
Yeah, all that stuff. They were like coming into therapy, but we were doing face-to-face. And it thrived. And it's still going. So it's great.
Sigmund Freud said a little bit of neurosis is healthy. I think the modern day version of that is a little bit of anxiety is healthy, and that push, the unanticipated events that happened to us that led us into private practice. I mean, sometimes we need that push.
Yeah, sometimes even though we don't know like how to start, like we still start, like you said, we take that leap of faith. And, even like right now, and, my husband will hear the ends of it where I'll just like word vomit everything, like all of those anxious thoughts that are running in my head, all of the moments where I feel like I'm going to fail, because obviously it's an investment. Yeah. Right. And I'll just word vomit everything. I'll cry and I'll just say like the randomest things. But then what happens after that is like, I just get up and I start doing it. Yeah. I figure it out. Like I don't stay in that like puddle of like sadness, and I can't do that.
It's when I was in the Naval Academy, I spent some time at the U.S. Naval Academy.
That's right. You didn't mention before you were in the Navy.
I was there at the U.S. Naval Academy, and there's on one of the buildings we have the tomb of John Paul Jones, who was the first American commander, and he was one of the quotes that we have is, "He who does not risk cannot win," and risking. And taking those steps of high risk where, it might work, it might not, but it will always fail 100% if you don't try it. Yes. So that's what led us to that, to jumping in, even though not everything is set up, we don't have all the everything planned out. I think there was another American commander that says this, a poorly plan, an imperfect plan executed now is better than a perfect plan not executed ever. Yeah. So
because we try to plan out everything right in advance, or ideally, even for us, right, when we get trained in this stuff, we have like the perfect client in front of us. Yeah. And we have all of the interventions that we're going to do. And then we step into the room and it's nothing like that. Exactly. So even just like taking that into account, how we're doing things scared. And I always tell my clients, like, we're going to do it, but we're going to do it scared, but we're still doing it. Yeah.
So going back to the theme of New Year's New year, same me, new year, new me. What are some practical approaches to approaching a new year? Of course, from a psychological perspective. I think from a psychoanalytic perspective, reflection over reinvention. I think we should start with reflecting. What did I learn in 2025? How did that shape me? Did it prune me? Did it help? Did I grow? And what can I take from the new year, from the old year, and what do I need to let go? I think that's my approach.
You're reminding me of a quote from Carl Jung. Right?
I
He
love
who
Carl
looks
Jung.
outside dreams. He who looks within wakes up, awakens.
I love Carl Jung.
Yeah.
He's great.
Absolutely. Which is what you're talking about, looking within us and understand, what can I learn about myself? How can I grow? What can I do different? What are my strengths? What are the areas that I need to strengthen up?
Yeah. I
so-
think also people tend to overwhelm ourselves with goals.
I completely agree.
Absolutely.
So I think instead of goals, I think we should have themes. Like, what is a theme? A theme is something that's not, it's kind of broad, abstract, but it guides you. It guides your behavior. It guides, more importantly, your thinking. For example, my theme of this year is, in Spanish, atención plena, mindfulness. So because of my ADHD, what I want to do this year is I want to learn to be fully present in the moment. If I'm eating, I don't have my book in front of me. If I'm in the restroom and I'm pooping, I don't have my phone there with me. If I'm showering, I'll have music in the background, but for the most part, I'm just showering and I'm enjoying the moment. I just finished rereading actually this book called Mindful Eating, and it actually teaches you how to use your 5 senses to eat. What does a food, taste like? How does a food feel when you stab it with a fork? What are the sounds of the food when you're crunching it? What does the food smell like? I mean, to be able to fully be present is to be able to enjoy it. But again, that's just my New Year's theme.
It kind of reminds me of something that you had said right now, like being alone with our thoughts. Like when our clients come in and they say, oh, well, I'm always in a room and, music is playing in the background, or I have to have something, in the background, kind of, you being present with yourself. Because that's sometimes what we need to do, is just be mindful of ourselves.
Right. I just got into this conversation with a friend on multitasking, and from a neurobiological perspective, how multitasking as a thing, it doesn't exist. It's actually called neuro switching. So in your brain, if you're eating, so you got that eating box and you're just doing that. And all of a sudden, if someone texts you, then you choose to pick up the phone and respond. What happens in your brain has to kind of close that eating box and switch over to the neurons that are in charge of, communicating through the text.
Yeah.
And then what if one of your kids comes along and says, Daddy, Mommy, look at the picture I drew. So now you're texting, but your brain has to close those circuits, go back to now open the boxes that are in charge of the children, of engaging with your child, and open up that box. And I'm just explaining this and I'm already exhausted, but that's what happens in the brain. And so my personal New Year's resolution theme is to be fully present, to be mindful in the moment. And I think if people would have a theme, not so much objectives or maybe a one long-term goal by the end of the year, I think that would be less stressful for people.
Yeah. I think when we start going into a checklist of things, and sometimes I feel, I'm going to say, like hypocritical of us, because we're very goal driven. We're very ambitious people.
Us three?
Yeah. Like, we have we're creating an alphabet right after our names. So I think that was me at one point in my life where I had all of these goals and all of these things that I wanted to do for myself. And I'm finally like in that part of my life where I'm taking it a little bit slower, kind of being more mindful, but still like not losing the vision of what I want to do for myself, and the kind of future that I want to have. So not so much saying like, well, what's your 5-year goal, but more so like, well, what is the future that you're picturing? Like, how do you see yourself in the future? Is it overworked and tired and exhausted? Or is it being able to have a balance between working out, being a mom, being a wife, doing all those little things that come in the way? Because just imagine if we were able to get from point A to point B, like real quick, get the small ways and the big bank account, like nothing.
And I think that's the difference between objectives and a goal. A goal is something that it's going to take me a long time to accomplish. Objectives are the steps to that goal.
I heard a British comedian. I cannot recall his name right now.
Mr. Bean.
No. It's a different guy. And he,
I don't know.
He said something.
I love Mr. Bean.
Rowan Atkinson. But anyway, no. But this is another individual. But that's probably that. I'm just old and I know this guy. But anywho,
we're giving away our age.
This guy, but this comedian said it's not the pursuit of happiness; it's the happiness in the pursuit. And it really struck me because he's absolutely right about the process, enjoying the process, trusting the process. I mean, trust the process. Trusting the process and involve yourself. And I love what you're saying about mindfulness and being focused on what you're experiencing at the moment. I mean, I think it's set a goal, set a theme, set some general direction where you want to go and start working towards that, but not obsess over like, I need to get, this perfect body. I want to get this, achieve my PhD or whatever within X, Y, and Z, like it's a process, and enjoy the process. I mean, don't become a slave to it, because then that's when you get discouraged, you become, shame, you start, having all this irrational expectations. Just enjoy the process and grow through it, go ahead.
Andrew Huberman. Yeah. He's another researcher out of California, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
Surf guy, skater, very interesting background. Love the guy. Love listening to him. He said the same thing. He said, and we know what dopamine is. We know that dopamine is that feel-good emotion that we get after we accomplish a task. But he was actually able to prove through his research in his lab that it's really these little micro wins along the way that produce a even bigger dopamine rush. And so enjoy the process.
And I think enjoying the process is what creates discipline eventually. Because the more you enjoy it, the more you do it, you continue to do it, and then you find joy and enjoyment in doing that. And then it gets to the point that it becomes second nature, and then you don't feel right when you don't do it.
Yeah.
Not that you're going to be like, oh my God, you start flagellating yourself for not going, but you start saying like, you know what, I need to start focusing on the process and enjoying this. I need to get stronger here. I need to do this. Start enjoying that process. And I think that'll get you that discipline. And then you do it even when you don't want to.
Yeah. Even as you say that, like, I'm thinking like, oh, but what if we fail in the process of it? But
is there truly failing?
True. Well, and I relate it to when I'm running, sometimes, and I'll have like, I'll follow like a plan and everything. And all of a sudden I have like a really like a 5-mile run, and it's like the worst run that I've done. I'm still doing it. Maybe I walk through it and it's just like, it just sucks, like having to go through that mental barrier of like having to run a long distance and not wanting to do it, and just everything else that comes against it. But then comes the race day and it like helps. Yeah. So even seeing like those small little bumps on the road just for what it is, like it's just a small bump in the road.
I used to be in cross country.
And that's what came.
Sorry, that was like an ADHD moment. But yeah, so if we can not necessarily wrap up, but what can we share with our listeners as far as how to approach the new year. I think definitely the first one is reflection over reinvention. I think we need to reflect on what did I learn in 2025?
Yeah.
The good and the not good. What do you desire to bring with you in this new year? What do you need to let go of? And then after that, maybe have a theme instead of having this laundry list, like Lydia said, that if you don't check everything off, then you're going to feel shame. Choose a theme instead of an actual resolution.
When we think of like being like good enough, right? Because that's a cognition that we often talk about, is like being good enough, kind of like how we kept saying about motivation, right? Not thinking that, being perfect and having to have this perfectionism cycle that's going to kill your motivation. Just taking the small bumps in the road and taking the small wins. I always say we're going to celebrate the small wins, even if it's something that's minor. It's something worth celebrating because it's going to get you closer towards that goal that you want.
Enjoy the process. Yeah.
I think Louis Simmons, who was a very well-known coach and trainer, he's the founder of Westside Barbell. He used to say, if you can PR 5 pounds, if you can just do a personal record of 5 pounds, and if you can do that once a month, a lot of people say, well, just 5 pounds is not a lot. What are you talking about? But if you add it up over 12 months, that's 60 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's those small wins. And some days you're just going to have horrible days at the gym.
Right.
But that's part of the process.
Jordan Peterson, Canadian psychologist guy, he said, if you're going to write a book, it's an overwhelming task.
Yeah.
So commit to just writing a page a day, 5 pages a day.
Yeah.
Or a week.
And I was gonna say, like, I know that for at least for me and Gilbert, like a lot of the things that we relate to are like to running, going to the gym, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like your goal of like PRing at the gym, like finishing a run, like being able to do a 5K. But it's like the little things that maybe you want to do something different. You noticed, you reflected, and you're like, oh, well, there's something that I want to change about myself. I'm going to start taking those small steps to change it so I can, no longer have that in the back of my mind or like a ghost, like following you around.
So to recap, what strategies do we have for you folks out there for the new year? First thing is reflection over reinvention. Reflect on last year. Second, choose a theme instead of a resolution. It could be connection or self-care. For me, it's being mindful, being present in the moment. Set goals, like Lydia just said, that are, good enough. And
I think, let me add to that, not only good enough, one of the things that's also very important, yes, it's important to have models, it's important to have people you look up to, but really in anything, and I think this applies to anything, your worst enemy is yourself. You're competing against yourself, improving yourself from yesterday.
So we should only compare ourselves, us to ourselves.
Yeah.
It's the me versus me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of the people that I know that are at the absolute top, the top tip of the spear in any field is going to be that I'm improving myself. Yes, I have these people that I look up to, but at the end of the day, it's me versus me. It's the improvement.
No joke. Last year, I started off, I could do no more than 5 push-ups. By the end of this year, I was able to do about 25.
Nice.
25. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap up. So listeners out there, we invite you to share your experiences for the new year, any new year myths that you may believe, a goal or a theme that you're wanting to accomplish this year. What did you learn from last year? What's the word of your year? I think that could be a theme.
And anything I think that resonated with y'all, like, that we see on social media. I think social media has like a very big impact on our day-to-day lives. Like, it's something that you cannot ignore. It's not something that, I know that there's really very strong-willed people that don't have social media.
Yeah.
But, for the reality of what it is right now, just sharing like what are some things that maybe you want to implement for yourself, because I think it's, for us especially, it's very nice and it's very comforting when we have others that share the same experiences as us. Just like for me, like starting the group practice and expanding, that is something that y'all can relate to, because you were once in my shoes, and you can relate to the same feeling of being scared and just afraid of this unknown. But, here we are now, right? Like y'all are both very successful in what y'all do and very well known in the community, and having that as like something to aspire to as well.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So, folks, thank you so much for dropping in. Share with us on social media anything related to the new year, and we'll be more than happy to address them there as well, maybe in our next episode.
Yeah, and if there's anything, of course, we do have an Instagram page, After Sessions Podcast. I believe it's what we have it as. We want to invite y'all, of course, to
let us know.
Like if there's anything that you guys want to talk about, not just like mental health related, but I know that for us, as like therapists, like a lot of people want to know what a therapist is, what we do, like how we're like. And
right, there's a lot of, when I say, well, I like to be a little bit specific, psychotherapist, because a lot of people say, oh, you're a speech therapist.
You're a massage therapist. I was like, what? No.
No, but I need one. Yes.
So let us know through our social media platforms, any mental health topics you want us to talk about, therapy questions, boundaries, emotional safety, just to say hi to us.
Yeah.
Folks, so what's coming for this season? Many things, but we really, really want to tailor all our episodes to what you want. So give us a shout out all throughout all the social media platforms. Let us know what mental health topics you want us to discuss. We have 3 great minds with different backgrounds, different experiences. It could be on any topic about theme, marriages, love, boundaries, burnout, anything really.
So just remember, you don't need a new year to deserve peace, healing, growth. You can start now to be the best version of yourself. You don't have to wait until everything's perfect. Start where you're at and just start learning and start enjoying the process.
Yeah, go ahead and you can follow us. So of course, we're going to also include in the description, places that you can contact us in case y'all are interested in like services or have any questions. Maybe something that we talked about kind of popped in your head and started this discussion for you. And, we're always open to have those conversations.
Thanks again, folks, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.